This is Bernie, but you may know him as the OG, and he ruined photography for me. I was perfectly happy. I thought I was an artist. I thought my Sony a6100 with a Sigma 17-50 lens was all I needed to take stills that would be considered works of art. But then I came across this video by Artyon Kaleo. Just a guy out doing some street photography when a guy walks by and says,
Said real photographers use film.
who even is this guy? At first, like Artyon, I thought it was a completely ridiculous, out-of-pocket thing to say.
That guy was basically saying that shooting digital makes you not a photographer, which is nonsense. It's the photographer that makes the images, not the camera.
But I couldn't get it out of my head. After that, the more I shot digital, the more I felt like I was missing out on something. So I took the leap. I bought an old mechanical camera of questionable quality and shot 6 rolls of film just to see what the hype was all about. But instead of just dropping the film off at a lab and calling it a day, I ended up spending months learning how to develop my own film, scan my own negatives, repair a 50-year-old camera, and completely change the way I think about photography. What I thought was gonna be a fun weekend experiment turned into one of the most aggravating, frustrating, and rewarding experiences I've ever had. So the first step was finding a camera in the first place. I could have picked up one of those budget point and shoots or even one of the lomography cameras, but come on, I'm already a bit of a camera nerd already, maybe a bit of a hipster too. If I was going to do this, I wasn't about to buy an electronic SLR like the legendary Canon AE1. I wanted to go all in. Full metal, fully mechanical, no autofocus, no automatic exposure. Just me, the camera, and Dad's old Minolta light meter. When I went to the SoCal Linux Expo in Pasadena, I packed for that trip with only a few goals in mind. Find a camera, find some film, shoot a couple rolls around Old Town Pasadena. As luck would have it, the Rose Bowl swap meet was happening that Sunday. After walking past a few camera vendors and resellers, which if you're one of those people, I hate you, but I spotted this sitting all by itself on a table. A Canon TL. It wasn't fancy, it was dirty, it didn't have a self-timer or any automatic modes. It was as simple as an SLR could be, and honestly, that's exactly what I was looking for. It came with a Canon FL 50mm f1.8. This was Canon's lens mount before the FD system most people are familiar with today. This lens was simple, sharp-ish, and a perfect place to start. I paid somewhere around $60 and $70 for this whole setup. Looking back, this is one of my favorite photos of myself because I had absolutely no idea what I had just gotten myself into. Then I headed over to CVS, and luckily they still had a film section. I'm guessing that's mostly thanks to the resurgence of instant cameras. I grabbed a 3-pack of Fuji 400, tossed it into my snazzy little camera bag I picked up at the swap meet, and headed to Old Town Pasadena. So here's what I was going to do. Spend the late afternoon and evening wandering around Old Town, shoot a couple of rolls, drop them off at my local lab, and see what photography was all about. Things are almost never that simple. This thing was filthy. So before I even shot my first roll, I stopped at a local I stopped at a local boba shop and grabbed something to drink and started cleaning it up. It looked like it'd been through a dust storm. I went through most of my lens wipes I brought for the expo and even more napkins than I care to admit. But after about 20 minutes, it was finally starting to look like a camera somebody actually cared about. And with that, it was finally ready to shoot. There was just one small problem. The light meter didn't work. Like a lot of cameras from this era, it was designed around mercury batteries that aren't made or even legal to make anymore. Luckily, the year before, my dad had given me this old Minolta Autometer 4F. I didn't realize it at the time, but this thing was about to become my best friend. Every single photo you're about to see was metered with it. Photos were taken and ready for the lab. There was just something so magical about taking each frame, as well as the social experience that came from shooting on film. People seemed more curious about the big piece of metal around my neck than any other camera that I've had in the past. And the aesthetics of Old Town Pasadena really helped the whole vibe. I mean, if I'm not shooting street photography for vibes in addition to art, then I feel like I'd be missing the whole point of shooting in people-dense city centers. I don't think I need to tell you that film needs to be developed and that you can do it yourself, but first I wanted to make sure everything was done right. I took the rolls over to Legacy Lab in Tustin. A really cool part about this lab in particular is if you get your negatives in before 11, you actually get same-day development and scanning. You're just gonna have to pick your negatives up on a different day. Okay, now eagerly waiting at my friend's job, Computer Runner, just a few doors down from this lab, while checking out all the old computer hardware he had laying around, a few hours later, I got my email. My scans were ready, I opened the folder, and almost immediately something fell off. Out of the entire roll, only 2 photos had come out. I had no idea what had happened. My first thought was that I'd done something wrong. Maybe I loaded the film incorrectly. Maybe I exposed it incorrectly. Maybe I accidentally rewound the film the wrong way. Whatever the reason, I figured it was my fault. So I bought another roll, tried again, and again, and again, and again. After $172 in lab fees, I still couldn't get more than 1 usable image from a roll, if I got any at all. Most of the negatives were either half exposed, blurry, or completely blank. At that point, I knew something else had to be wrong. I thought I had tested this camera thoroughly, but apparently not thoroughly enough. So I opened the back, fired the shutter over and over and over again. And this time, I paid attention to the shutter curtain. It's this little piece of fabric that moves across the film and controls how long it's exposed to light, based on whatever shutter speed you've selected. And then I saw it. The shutter curtain was getting stuck. I was devastated. At least I would have been if I wasn't the kind of person who takes everything he owns apart with complete confidence, whether he knows how to fix it or not. To be fair, the camera was built before we landed on the moon, and it probably wasn't unreasonable to think that it might need a little lubrication by the time the iPhone 17 came out. And thankfully, that was exactly the problem. But how was I supposed to know if I actually fixed it? Was I actually going to risk another 6 or 7 rolls of film? Nope. This dial is called shutter speed. It's measured in fractions of a second, written as 1/x, where x is whatever number you have selected on the dial. So if I set my camera to 1/60, the shutter should stay open for 1/60th of a second. Conveniently, my camera records at 60 frames, or pictures per second. So at 1/60, the shutter should be open for exactly 1 frame. At 1/30, it should be open for 2 frames. At 1/15, it should be open for 4 frames. If every shutter speed lined up with the math, I know that I had repaired it and it actually worked within a reasonable margin. I'm not an engineer, but it was good enough for me. Then I grabbed another roll. This time it was Ilford Delta 3200, a super grainy black and white film that's perfect for low light situations. And it worked. These photos were about as good as I could have hoped for. Sure, a few of them were a little soft, some darker than I wanted, but for the first time, those mistakes were mine, not the camera's. To most people, these are just grainy black and white photos. To me, they were proof that I'd actually brought this camera back to life, and it marked the beginning of my journey into film photography. However, there's still a lot I want to learn and share. How to develop my own film, scanning it at home, even making my own darkroom prints. Those are stories for another video, so damn you. And thank you, Bernie, for convincing me to try real photography. And to everyone who came before me and made it possible for someone like me to learn this craft decades later. Thank you. And I hope to see you in the next one. My name's Andrew, and this is Alt Frames.